Okay. Where am I dumb? Am I stupid? Oh, I am stupid. That's crazy. Wait, I'm dumb. Oops. Okay. Oh, wait, wrong screen. I'm throwing. I'm actually throwing. I'm tossing my elo. Whoops. Okay. Oh wait. Wait. Actually, I just remembered that my freaking Discord DMs are on the screen. I'm just gonna like drag this over here. Thank you. Can't dock my DMs again. Last time I did that, I got reported to the FBI. That wasn't very fun. Anyways, video for preparing for the HSR 3.0 meta. Yeah,
Welcome,
let's
and this
go.
is gonna
Hooray!
be the third early access review video, this time featuring the brand new Memosprite mechanic, which is probably gonna be a core mechanic for our future Memosprite class, or rather the Remembrance class units, as well as the version 3.0 relic sets, right? I would say that this video, I didn't really go too in-depth for the relics. It is mainly gonna be focusing on the Memosprite itself. As of now, we can only see Meme from Remembrance Trailblazer, and I'm sure you guys have seen her kit from the previous Remembrance Trailblazer Early Access review. So for
Indeed,
this one,
I did in fact watch that.
It also includes Garment Maker, and pretty much any Memosprites that are coming out, they will pretty much use the exact same mechanics, right? So without further ado, I'm just gonna jump right in. This is gonna be for characters that follow the path of remembrance. Every single path of remembrance is gonna be where the character themselves, they are the Memo Master. Right, it's a master and servant, and then the summon is called the Memosprite. So that is going to be for every single remembrance unit. And while Memosprites, they are technically considered summons, they are completely different in the way where traditional summons are going to be valued, right? Because you can see Memosprites, they are individual entities. They literally take up a slot. They would take their own actions. They can be targeted by allies. They can targeted by enemies. Remembrance characters will have an additional ability in their traits that needs to be leveled. So you can see this from Remembrance Trailblazer. There are two different menus. One is going to be for Remembrance Trailblazer itself, and then for the Remembrance units, or rather the Memosprite units, you have a Memosprite skill as well as a Memosprite talent, right? These two different nodes. Both of them can be leveled up to level 6, same as our base.
Bro, I saw a bunch of people, like, when we initially saw this, like, freaking out about it, but, like, I don't really think it's that big of an issue, because all it really means is just you have to farm a little bit more traits. I would assume, unless the Memosprites get their own, like, individual material, I would assume it's just more remembrance mats to level up your traces. So, like, all it really means is just... There's something stuck in my teeth. I hate it here. But all it really means is just a little bit more farming. It's just a little bit more. Now, if we had to give them individual relics, then... I mean, again, that's not that big of a deal still, in my opinion. But, like, obviously, with relics comes a lot more RNG. And in my case, I will have horrible stats. But I don't think it's going to go that far. I think it's... I'm assuming it's just the traces.
Basic attack, which means that technically speaking, leveling a Remembrance class unit, if you want to level up both the Memo Master as well as the Memosprite, you will take more resources to max them out compared to our traditional units, right? Because you will need to spend more resources maxing out the additional 2 different nodes for Memosprites. For Remembrance Trailblazer, this is not that bad because technically, like I mentioned in her early access review, you can just leave RMC everything at level 1. In fact, if you want to run the run it down meme strategy, the KMS meme strategy, you can actually just leave everything at level 1 and just let meme, like, you know, run it down. But for units like Aglaea or any DPS units where not only are the damage coming from the Memosprite themselves, maybe the damage will also be coming from the core Memo Masters as well, right? Or maybe Memo Masters will have their unique skills, unique abilities. So this will lead to a scenario where you would probably level both the Sprite as well as the Master. As of now, not too certain. RMC still very cheap, but in the future, something to consider. Speaking about how do...
Yeah, like, that kind of makes sense. I can... Again, I'm not 100% sure if I'm even going to pull for Aglaea or not. But I would imagine that Aglaea will do, like, decent damage, and then the summon does, like, the rest of it. Or, like, with Castorize, for instance, I can't imagine that Castorize has this big old scythe and does no damage. I have to imagine she has a scythe that big and that prevalent that she's going to be doing damage. So, assumably, I have to max out both her and her freaking glow wong she has in her back pocket.
Memosprites work. So Memosprites, they will all have to be summoned onto the field by their Memo Master. Taking RMC as an example, right? You can summon via your skill, you can also summon via ultimate, and then you have this little charge mechanic. This charge mechanic is not going to be universal. It is specifically tied to meme, but for future Memosprite mechanics, there might be more than just using skill to summon one. Maybe you can have follow-up attacks, maybe you have the talent, maybe it's the ultimate, right? So who knows from there. But once they're summoned, right, if the Memosprite is already on the field and the Memosprite summon ability is activated, if you want to cast the ability again, it will instead dispel the crowd control effects from the Memosprite. And every single Memosprite, it will appear on the action order with their own speed and taking their own action when it's their own turn, right? So it is quite literally like an additional teammate. Memosprites, they are active characters in the lineup during combat, which means that they will always appear to the right of the Memo Master. This is quite important, where they can be attacked as well as knocked down, right? Memosprites, they can also act when their Memo Master are under crowd control effects, unlike Jingyuan and Lightning Lord. So yep. And finally, Memosprite can also be healed and shielded by our allies. So that's basically universal Memosprite mechanics that will be applied to every single Memosprite going forward from now on. And then jumping into the next portion, which is going to be the Memosprite energy. So as of version 3.0, Memosprites do not have a max energy, and instead they will share the energy with their Memo Master. So here are some interesting interactions, especially when we know from Remembrance Trailblazer, which is energy regenerated by Memosprites, it will be regenerated to their masters instead. Now, if you have to compare this from a getting hit perspective, right? If your Memosprite gets hit, your master, it will be the equivalent of them giving this energy to their master. So an area of effect damage that hits two different targets. Your master will generate 20 energy with the Memosprite, compared to a unit which doesn't have a Memosprite, it will only regenerate 10 energy. And when Memosprites take action, their Memo Master will also regenerate 10 energy. However, any team-wide energy regeneration effects can only take effect once. So for example, your shared feeling light cone, if you were to cast your skill, it is only going to be once. Your past self in the mirror, your energy regeneration at the start of each wave is also going to be once. And then finally, the Huan's ultimate, it doesn't double, right? So it is also only going to be once. And next, when Memosprite becomes a target of energy draining attacks, then their Memo Masters will lose energy instead. And finally, when Memosprites become a target of energy regeneration mechanics, such as the enemy TV, then their Memo Masters will be receiving the energy. So they are kind of like a little proxy that will serve to be a little sponge that will receive and deal and lose damage for their masters. And for AoE, it's gonna be double, right? So that is the Memosprite energy mechanics. And then next,
like the equivalent of having a utility tank in my back pocket.
In combat, Memosprites, they also have their own HP, own speed, own max energy, taunt value, shields, completely.
Bro, this thing is so cute. Like, I don't even know when I be running Remembrance MC, just because like at the moment, like I said in the other thing I looked at, she doesn't really have like a, it's as of right now, I don't feel like she really has like a place in the meta at the moment, like a spot where she like is the most fitting, at least as of right now in this moment, because we don't know if she, like, how much better she would be with Agalea until she's out, obviously. But I'm finna make something work just because I want to see Mem just do stuff, because like they're so cute.
Different from their
hey bro, look at the little guy, they're adorable.
Memo Master. However, for other stats, namely attack, defense, and crit rate, they will be inherited from the Memo Master's unbuffed stats. In other words, they are out of combat stats. So what you guys see in the character screen, right? Memosprites, they cannot inherit any buffs during combat from their Memo Master. So if an ally applies a single target buff to the Memo Master, then that Memosprite will not receive the benefits. If the ally apply a team-wide buff, then Memosprite, it will also not double dip on the buffs, because they do not benefit from the buffs on their Memo Master, right? Unlike summons, Memosprites can be targeted by any abilities. So Memosprites, they are included in abilities that target the whole team. For example, Robin's ultimate, as well as the 24% action value advance from Dance, they can all advance Memosprites, right? And then when an ally applies a multi-target or team-wide buff with a duration not based on the caster's turn.
Wait, so does that mean like, would I be able to Sunday E my Mem? Could I action advance my Mem 100% and give it the crit rate bonus? Is that a thing I can do? I think I won't know until literally tomorrow.
Such as your Bronya's ultimate, the buff duration will be independent on Memosprites and Memo Master. So if your Memo Master takes turn first, that buff will not expire on the Memosprite. And then only on Memosprites' turn, then the buff will take down by 1, right? And then for the Memosprites, they can also affect the party lineup order for Huan Huan's skill. Like I mentioned, Memosprite also always spawn to the right of the Memo Master, which can potentially steal the healing target that you want to original heal from. And then for abilities that only target one single ally, you can in fact target the Memosprite specifically, but it can only take effect on one unit, with the exception of Sunday. If you do use Sunday, then it will buff both Memosprite as well as Memo Master at the same time.
Okay,
so for example, if you were to use Sparkle's skill on Memo Master, then it will only advance and buff the Memo Master. The Memo Sprite, it will not gain any action value advance, and it will not gain any crit damage buff. You can use Sparkle's skill on the Memo Sprite, and it can buff and advance only the Memo Sprite, and vice versa, the Memo Master will not gain any crit damage buff, right? And then speaking about
I'm gonna make Hyper Carry Mem a thing.
How does Sunday work with Memo Sprites? So unlike other abilities that target a single ally, Sunday can actually target both the Master and the Sprite at the same time. This is probably one of Sunday's biggest selling point, as we have seen from the way we pivoted into version 3.0 future Memo Sprite summon DPS. Sunday's buff will be effective for Aglaia or any Remembrance Path DPS units because it can buff both the Master and Sprite, right? So for the purpose of Sacredos, as well as the signature, like both will be effective for Aglaia version 3.0 future Memo Sprite summon DPS. Starting point, both the Master and like other abilities that target a single ally, Sunday can end day work crit damage buff, right? And then speaking about Sunday, Master will not gain any crit damage buff, right? And then speaking of
like he just brings them both up, so it applies to both. Okay, I got it. I understand.
Sunday. How does Sunday work with Memo Sprites? So unlike other abilities that target a single ally, Sunday can actually target both the Master and the Sprite at the same time. This is probably one of Sunday's biggest selling point.
Oh, I need to fix something.
As we have seen from the way we pivoted into version 3.0 future Memo Sprite summon DPS, Sunday's buff will be effective for Aglaia or any Remembrance Path DPS units because it can buff both the Master and Sprite, right? So for the purpose of Sacredos, as well as his signature Light Cone, using his skill or ultimate on them is considered as targeting one ally. And these additional buffs can be applied to both the Master and the Sprite themselves. However, if you were to use Bronya with Sunday's signature Light Cone with the 4-piece Sacredos, and if you target the Memo Master with Bronya's skill, the buffs will only be for the Memo Master. But if a Sunday uses Bronya's signature Light Cone, the Light Cone buff will also only be applied to the Memo Master, right? So something to keep in mind that we've discovered. And then the buffs provided by Sunday's skill, talent, signature Light Cone, 4-piece Sacredos, all of them have independent duration on the Master and Sprite, which means that if the Sprite takes consecutive actions, the buff can expire on the Sprite faster while still being active on the Master. So that's exact same thing that I've mentioned previously just now, right? And then for Sunday's ultimate, it will target both units to become beatified for the crit damage boost being applied to both the Master and the Sprite. But as usual, the energy will only be given to the Master, right? So none of these effects have a double dip. So you can't stack on and double the total buffs to be applied to a single target. It is more like making sure that both the Master and the Sprite gets the same buff instead of doubling the buff, right? So that's gonna be that for Sunday's mechanics. And then finally, how do Relics set bonuses work with Memo Sprite? So for Memo Sprites, they can only receive passive stats from Reddit bonuses and not any active effects. So here are some of the couple of examples, right? This of course have an exception that explicitly states that it can be applied to Memo Sprites, such as our two brand new 4-piece, which I'll be explaining after this, the Hero of Triumphant Song, as well as the Poet of Morning Collapse. Although the Banana Relic mentions summons, the summons does not explicitly state that it is applied to Memo Sprites. So unfortunately, the Banana set is probably gonna be something that will be phased out, and we will get a
Bro, I've been farming. Okay, I haven't been farming for ages, but I've been farming that stage for a while. Just 'cause I'm thinking, okay, for one, I want Lushaka for my Sunday, but on top of that, I'm like, well, summon characters are coming, so like summon Planar Sphere. So you mean to tell me? You mean to tell me? This set is quite literally just here for Jingyuan. This set is quite literally just here for Ding-Yuan. I hate my life.
Much better two-piece in the future relics, right? So it is what it is. The passive stat bonuses from most two-piece caverns, it will still be inherited by Memosprites, such as your 12% attack boost from a Musketeer, your 8% crit rate boost from Scholar, right? And then for our four-piece set bonuses, some of them also offers passive stat bonuses that can be partially inherited by your Memosprites. For example, the 6% crit rate from our four-piece Valerius, the 16% break effect from the four-piece Thief set, and then for these two four-piece, aside from the passive, the other accompanying effect can only be applied to the Memo Master, such as the energy regeneration from the four-piece Meteor, right? As of version 3.0, every single planar ornament provides a passive buff as well as an active effect, and as usual, none of the active effect can be inherited by the Memosprites. The Banana 2-piece gives a 16% crit damage buff as a passive stat, with an additional 32% crit damage during combat. This 16% crit damage will take effect on both units, but the 32% crit damage can only be applied to the Memo Master and not the Memosprite, right? So it is what it is. For Broken Kill and other team-wide buffs equipped by your Remembrance units, it will only buff the team once because the active effect will not be inherited by the Memosprites. So it's not like you're wearing two different Broken Kills for both the Master and the Sprite. So unfortunately that's the case. And when other allies equip Luxasha and the first character is gonna be a Remembrance buff, then the Memo Master will receive the attack boost while the Memosprite will not receive.
I was about to say, is that only gonna apply to the Memosprite? Because like technically, like yes, there's characters in the slot and they're with them, but like I'm assuming since it technically counts as an individual party slot, that technically doesn't really count as being a part of Trailblazer slot because it's an individual slot.
Boost because they will be considered the second in the lineup, right? And
Genius.
One last thing is that Memosprites, they can gain buffs from Broken Kill, Fleet of Ageless, as well as other team buffing sets as long as it's going to be a passive, right? So that will pretty much be the introduction of Remembrance Path as well as the Memosprite mechanic.
You know, the more I look at Mem, the more I kind of, they do look like a league champion. I don't know the champion's name. I haven't played enough, honestly, to know them or even like be able to look up an image of them. I don't know their name. But I feel like I've seen Mem before in freaking Summoner's Rift.
And frankly speaking, there are probably more mechanics that we can discover going forward in the future because we really only have Remembrance Trailblazer as well as a little bit of hint from Aglia as of now, so not too many things to work with. Maybe we'll see more of this in version 3.2 because 3.1 is also going to be Tribi and My Day, none of them being a Remembrance class DPS, right? So look forward to more explanation and insight for Memosprites as we go further into Amphoras because this is going to be a patch that's going to be lasting an entire year, right? And then finally into our last segment, it is going to be our brand new 4-piece relics, right? This is going to be relatively short because both of these relics, the Triumphant Song as well as the Poet, they are looking to be designed for future characters. So let's just go into the Poet 4-piece first, right?
Quantum name, interesting. Oh, this is the speed one.
His quantum damage dealt increased by 10%, and 4-piece decreased the wearer's speed by 8%. Before entering battle, if the wearer's speed is less than 110 or 95, increase the crit rate by 20 or 32% respectively. This also applies to the wearer's Memosprites. This is going to be our first ever 4-piece relic set that will have a debuff to the wearer in order to gain a set bonus. But the set bonus is pretty diabolical because it is a 64% permanent crit value, or rather 32% crit rate buff if your speed is below 95. And like I mentioned for D Herta, if you do not activate D Herta speed substats, as long as you are below 95 speed, you can in fact gain this 32% crit rate. And then once you are in combat, you can give them all of the buffs. So for example, if you want to use D Herta with Jade, giving the 30%, giving the 30 speed, running with E2 Robin, all that kind of stuff, you can make them go beyond the 95 speed. As long as they enter into battle within 95, you can gain the maximum benefit, right? So Rame, Robin, Jade, all of them are completely fine. After the 8% speed reduction, speed must not exceed 95, which means that if your base speed is more than 103, then this is not going to be viable for you, right? Jade's base speed is at 103, which means that you are going to be at 94.76, which means you cannot have any speed sub. If you have even a single speed sub on Jade, then this is not going to be usable for Jade at all, right? Then for Qingque, you cannot have more than 3 speed subs, otherwise you will break the threshold. Aside from these two quantum units, 32% crit rate buff is going to be very strong, but unfortunately Scylla already has a shit ton of speed, so she will never be able to use this. It has to be able to compete with 4-piece Genius for quantum characters, and frankly speaking, for both Jade and Qingque, if you are below the speed threshold, it is quite comparable to 4-piece quantum, right? So it is very good for characters that can run base speed with sparkle, most notably being Qingque, because she is a quantum unit as well as getting the benefit from the crit rate, right? Because she does lack any crit rate trace from a evolution class unit herself. Kelala as well as Yunli, they are both not too shabby, even though they're slow, but they already have their best in slot 4-piece, which is going to be Valerius, so it is what it is. Then the 4-piece buff, keep in mind, it will also include Memosprites, which means we might be getting a quantum remembrance very, very soon. And I said this a lot of time, I strongly believe that Caceres is going to be a quantum remembrance. So moving on to the next 4-piece is going to be the Triumphant Song, right? 2-piece.
Oh my god, bro, I'm so dumb. For a second, I'm thinking in my head of like, I'm forgetting that paths and elements are different things. So I'm thinking, oh wait, she can't be she's gonna be quantum, but then she can't be remembrance. I'm forgetting that remembrance is the classification of the unit, and then quantum is the element. It's 100% for Caceres. I believe it. There's no way that she's not quantum. If she's not quantum on everything, I don't know, like twerk in the middle of Times Square.
Piece 12% attack, and 4-piece when the Memosprite is on the field, increase the speed by 6%, and then when the Memosprite attacks, increase wearer and Memosprite's crit damage by 30% for 2 turns. This is going to be gold, and it is quite likely to be
I'm assuming
Aglaea's 4-piece, because she is also like a golden creature, right? Increasing attack, increasing speed, increasing crit damage, and we have been teased that Aglaea is somebody that's going to be very, very fast, so this is also very likely to be Aglaea's best in slot 4-piece. When we do use this with Sunday, the 4-piece buff unfortunately is going to be exclusive to units with Memosprite, and Memosprite is only going to be belonging to the Remembrance class, so no other unit in our entire game can run this 4-piece aside from Aglaea as well as Remembrance Trailblazer. It is not too shabby. In fact, it is technically the best in slot on Remembrance Trailblazer, but the impact is not that significant because Remembrance Trailblazer themselves, they really don't deal that much damage. It is really just for them to be as fast as possible so that we can get the charge and cast meme support as frequently as possible, right? So other characters, you can consider running this as a 2-piece off-piece, which is going to be giving us a 12% attack, just like Musketeer. That is pretty much going to be it for our brand new 4-piece. Frankly speaking, not too much to say. It is basically designed for upcoming version 3.1 DPS as well as Aglaea that's going to be coming out in a later portion, right? So with that, we have come to the end of our version 3 Memosprite mechanic as well as the latest 3.0 4-piece Cavern of Corrosion relics, right? So let me know what you guys in the comments. Are you guys going to be farming? Are you guys going to be using Remembrance MC? Will you guys be putting for Aglaea and all that kind of stuff? Word of the day is going to be she's coming. Join Twitch, join YouTube, join Discord, join Twitter, all the best of Dungeon Boost. I'll see you guys next time.
Bro, I'm so cooked. I'm actually so cooked. But the closer we get to 3.0, even though like it's literally, as of recording, it's literally freaking tomorrow. The more I want Aglaea, just because it's like I'm really excited for this freaking summon meta. And it's like if I don't, oh my god, I don't know. I'm getting Herda regardless. I'm infinitely more excited about Herda. I just really like Herda. I'm more excited about that. But okay, that wasn't honestly as complicated as I was thinking it was gonna be. I'm still scared. What is this thumbnail? I'm still terrified for tomorrow. Next time you see me, it'll be game. Oh wait, no. Actually, wait, no. There's gonna be like one more video that comes up, like Herda shit, and then gambling. Yeah.